Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of the Only Murders in the Building Season 2 finale. This video is brought to you by Gut Milk, which now introduces Gut Milk Light.
Less crunchy.
Okay, Gut Milk did not. Gut Milk, send us your money. We will be here to
All
promote your video.
right.
All right.
No, we will not. But
Yeah.
oh my God, this finale was so fun. It really felt like sort of like an old Agatha Christie kind of feel, or Knives Out for anyone who's watched that, where you have all the suspects in a room together and they're gonna call it out. It was really, really fun. I'm telling you, when Charles turned around and pointed at Ursula, the gut milk lady, it was like, it was you. I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, I was right? No, this is not happening.
You would have ascended it straight into heaven if the Gut Milk lady had actually done it at that point.
No way. There's no way. She's like, me? I'm like, that's right. It's you.
I
was wrong.
We were all wrong. There was this show on Netflix called Murderville, which I'm the only person who watched, I think. But at the end of every single episode, they did this where you convene all the suspects. There is nothing more that I love than bringing all the suspects into a room. And I'm pretty sure this is like Columbo too, where they're like, okay, this is what happened. This was awesome. Really good finale. I still have some questions. There's still like a couple of things I'm struggling to figure out in my head. But, maybe you guys in the comments will help us. We're all in this together.
Yes, we are.
Before we go any further and talk about my guy, Mr. Paul Rudd, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We have so much great coverage coming. Of course, we will be talking about Season 3, but also House of the Dragon just premiered on HBO.
Yeah, it was really good. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you're the one person out there that didn't help crash HBO the other night, then yeah, check it out. It's really good. And follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV, if you want to keep up with us outside of YouTube until, the next season comes, because there is another season coming and we will be back for it as well.
Okay, let's start with Poppy. Poppy is the murderer of Bunny Folger. I think, we both said this after this past episode that this was the only candidate that really made sense when you got to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned this in our premiere of this season, that I thought that it was really weird straight from the jump that Poppy and Cinda were even at the Arconia the night that the trio was getting arrested. They don't live there. They have no business being there. They're not in the neighborhood. How would they know about any of this unless there was some sort of involvement from either both of them or one of them? And as it turns out, it's Poppy. Poppy's the one who warned them to get out of the building. And I actually found it an interesting reveal, because she was saying that she texted all three of them to get out of the building.
Yeah.
Which, when we saw it before, it seemed like only Charles and Oliver were getting a text to get out of the building. They had never really revealed that Mabel also got one.
Yeah, there's a couple little things in here that I don't want to say that they're sort of were just pieced together for the sake of convenience in the finale, but it did feel like they really worked a little bit overtime to sort of try to resolve some questions that we had. And this is where my only real issue with the Poppy is the murderer thing kind of comes into play, is that some things they didn't give us like a full explanation on. Like, it felt like the message to get out of the building was sort of a construction of, here's these people running out of the building after Bunny died. Why are they running out of the building? And then it's like, the catacombs, there's like a throwaway line that she says the detective Krebs in bed is like, oh, you wouldn't believe what I figured. Well, how did you do this, Poppy? Like, you can't just give us exposition and then we're okay with it.
I think they tried to sort of explain it a few episodes ago, where Cinda was having that conversation with Poppy that was basically like, you're an excellent researcher. You end up sometimes getting stuck in the job that you're the best at. So you don't want to be the best at being a researcher or getting my sandwiches. If it's like this situation where you want to be a podcaster, you have to really show that you're able to do that and good at that as well.
Yeah, I think it's just really, in general, the way they revealed Poppy as the killer was beyond all shadow of a doubt Awesome. Incredible.
10
No,
out of 10. It was so fun.
I loved every
I
minute.
died. I died. It was so funny. Like tears were streaming down my face. That slow motion
Yeah,
scene, I could watch it 100 times.
that was incredible. The just squeezing of the tomatoes was so weird.
It was all so weird. I
Yeah,
mean, and then there were people there that I was kind of like, why is Alice there? I know it ended up being
yeah.
part of the whole stage, but the minute that they like turned it around, there she was. I was like, why are you here?
It got so crazy, but also I guess so fun and just like, oh, here's Alice, and then all of a sudden here's Charles stabbed, and then I loved on the other side of it, they just had like a sheet over him, like he was like the coroner had come in and he was for sure dead.
Yeah, it was, this whole scene was executed so beautifully, and they ended up getting this confession from Poppy. We had a bit of this tie-in where Poppy wanted Cinda, because Cinda was like, I need a new podcast. I need another subject matter. I can't be sort of a one and done like Nickelback. Listen, I do not like Nickelback, but Nickelback had more than one hit. I will just say that. It is the way that it
They
is.
have two. They have two hits.
Hey, two is more than one. All
It
right.
is.
So,
It is.
stop piling on Nickelback. But anyways, we were in this situation where Poppy, was like, hey, what about this Rose Cooper mystery? It's got a woman at the center of it. She went missing. The Becky Butler thing was something that you ended up really liking, same sort of feel to it. And she was just not buying it. And it was like, no, there's not enough here. And because of that, that is probably why Poppy was like, okay, well, maybe if I can get my hands on this painting, then I can sort of give a little more evidence and push it a little bit harder, but she just could not get her hands on that painting, that she had to create something else.
Okay, this is really a question for everybody, commenters, you as well, is like, was it a little too convenient? It's like, oh, 14 Savage was 14 Sandwich. Like, is that really like Savage Sandwich? Do they sound that much alike?
I just don't know how Bunny thought that was going to be a connection that was going to actually help anything. Like, it was so random, and they just got really lucky that they heard anything like that. Like, that could have never come around.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing with this, and this is why I think the reveal at the end of season 1 was probably stronger than the reveal at the end of season 2, just because I feel like everything with Jan sort of fit into place a little bit better. That's not to take away from everything that was great with the reveal, including, by the way, Howard. This is the biggest question I have for Howard. I know they prepared for a lot of this. Was Howard just like cranking it up to 11? I feel like that part was a little off script.
Yeah, no, he was definitely cranking it up to 11 after he saw the doorman, how good he was, that he was like, oh no, I have to be better, sort of thing.
Yeah, everything I think there was great.
Yeah, my one critique of this, which has been sort of my critique since the knife reveal, like way back in episode like 4 or 5 or whatever, that they've been sitting on a pile of evidence that even Mabel said, this knife can clear me. Like, my fingerprints are not on it. I know they're not on it because I didn't touch this. That was kind of like this whole time. Why haven't they just given this knife to somebody to just clear out who it is and figure out who it is? And I know why. Obviously, we had to be able to get to the end of the show. But there should have been something a little more where even we had something from the detective to get back to them to be like, hey man, I'm really sorry that it's taking as long as it is, but I will have something for you. Something that just kind of, they're just going to call her up and be like, hey, so who happens to be on this knife? It's like, well, why didn't you do that 4 episodes ago?
Yeah, there's some things here that feel like, all right, we had to find a way to just carry the story out, and hopefully people won't question them too much. The knife, like the motives for Poppy, did she have enough of a motive? This is why I was on here just wrongfully talking about how there needed to be something a lot deeper. Like, I still kind of feel that way.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. I mean, killing for, ambition and wanting to sort of be your
Yeah.
own thing after being, pushed down a lot and living the life that she lived and everything that was sort of happening. And she just wanted to get some kind of control over her future and what she wanted to do. And we already saw, she disappeared herself. So she already had it in her to kind of manipulate things the way that she wanted to. Was murder the next sort of logical step for her to get what she wanted? Yeah, I believe it. I believe that she would do something like that. I was satisfied with this ending.
All right, let's get into now the thing that I'm really really excited to talk about. I love Paul Rudd. I've always
Who
loved Paul
doesn't
Rudd.
love Paul Rudd? Paul Rudd is a treasure.
And this like we knew that Paul Rudd was appearing at the end of the season.
Yep.
Like, Michael Rappaport posted something on like social media a while back about it. The big question was just like who Paul Rudd was going to be, and as it turns out, he's not some secret relative of Charles. He's not the murderer. He is instead the victim. Who killed Paul Rudd? How could you?
Yeah, well, right now it feels like there's a little bit of sort of smoke around who it could be or who was connected to it, just based on who's already there, who was at this play, or who is connected to Charles. Because we haven't seen Charles act like this before, where he's being very sort of protective and
Yeah.
angry, and to Paul Rudd, I know what you did to her. I was like, her? Okay, so there's not that many people then that Charles is going to act that way with. We know that there's Mabel, of course. So
Yeah.
did Paul Rudd do something? We'll call him Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
It's Ben. So Ben, did Ben do something to, Mabel?
Yeah.
Or is it Lucy? And that's the person that I actually think it is, because the way that Charles was acting, he was acting like a protective father, that he was kind of like, I know what you did to her. I'll never forgive you kind of thing. It's all really horrible, this horrible thing that you did. And we know from this season that Lucy did not like the person that her mother was marrying. There was something that was really off about it, to the point that she did not even go to that wedding. She left before anything had happened to go see Charles. So can it be connected that this is the stepfather or the person that her mom was going to marry? That's kind of where I'm landing. I know some other people are kind of landing there too. It feels like an obvious connection.
That's the thing that makes the most sense, because it is sort of a situation where Charles cares a lot about the people in his life. I think
Yes.
they've made it clear that, he's held a lot of guilt for not being involved in Lucy's life for a certain period of time. I could see him easily going to that level. Like the only other thing that kind of popped into my head is that we know that there's about a year time jump in here, and a lot can happen in a year. And we saw that Charles and Joy finally like had their moment where she's just like putting the makeup on him, and he's like trying to ask her out. He's just like he's doing that sort of thing. But anyway,
Oh, Andrea Martin.
I know, and she's fantastic, and it would be great to have sort of another reason to see more of Andrea Martin moving forward. That maybe like Ben is somehow tied to her. Like maybe Ben could be her son. I mean, the great thing about Paul Rudd is that he can play anywhere between 25 and like 49 and look completely believable, because Paul Rudd never ages ever.
He never ages. It is so weird. I don't know how he does it, but yeah, he looks exactly the same.
Yeah, so that just sort of adds another little bit of wrinkle, and they could have a little bit of fun with that as well. I just think in general, the weirdest sort of question mark with Ben dying, obviously beyond just Charles's obvious grudge and the fact that this has happened in front of a crowd just like full of people, is that this is like only murders in the building, and this is the first murder that has really been outside of the building.
Yeah, and that's why, for me, going into the next season, it feels like this murder has to be tied to somebody who's tied to the building. And, Lucy, she doesn't live there now, but is very tied to the building. So is it possible that something happened to her in the building with this guy? Like, it feels like it needs to be tied to the building in some way, and not just, well, our trio lives in the building, so now everything is tied to Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be something, because we already have 2 million New York City murder shows out there. It's like the Arconia is what makes this special, and I don't want to live in a world either where it's like, okay, now we don't get to see like Howard or Uma or Ursula or like any of, like, I want all these characters to still somehow be involved. Like, maybe in the year or so that passed, maybe Ben like moved into the building at some point. Maybe Ben took the place of Amy Schumer, who just like completely just disappeared after the first couple of episodes.
Man, they really promoted her like she was going to be this big thing this season. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not an Amy Schumer fan by any means, but like, that's a lot of promotion for nothing.
Yeah, like that was just totally a waste of time. I mean, maybe they just wanted some red herrings in there. I don't really know.
No, all I feel is that if they get too far away from the murders actually happening in the building or around the building or connected to the building, that it's going to kind of take away from the show. Because this show kind of reminds me a lot of sort of Sex in the City, where it's like, it's not just about the characters, but it's also about the city. The city is a character.
Yeah.
And in this show, the Arconia is a character in this whole show. So if you take away the Arconia, it's just kind of like, all the different characters, the Howards and all these other characters just don't really have a place in this.
The one thing I really do like about this reveal, no matter where it goes, is I'm glad they threw a time jump in here, because like if they had killed somebody immediately after this murder was solved again, like, I understand that this is a very heightened world where things are over the top and silly. We got people speaking slow motion. We have the theme song being yodeled at the end of this finale. It's just, but you still need like a certain amount of realism here, and just having like another murder in a row would have just felt a little bit too much.
I think for me, it would depend on who it was. There was lots of people out there, including us, that thought that the next murder was actually going to be Teddy.
Yeah.
Which would have been a really juicy murder, because it would have given Oliver a really meaty story next season, because, of everything that happened with the reveal that Oliver is not Will's dad. Will knows. And then if Teddy just shows up dead, I mean, like, he's done a lot of bad things over time with the jewelry theft and, the grave robbing, the having the affair with the wife, the being the father. Like, there would have been a lot of suspects. And this, I would have been all right with that if they rolled into another murder. But I'm excited for next season. I'm not sure if taking it out of the Arconia is the way to go. I'm hoping it's going to be connected. I cannot wait for the next season, and it really hurts my heart to feel like we're not going to see any more episodes until next year.
I know. It's so sad. We've been spoiled with so much goodness with this show, really, this summer in general with TV.
Yeah, this summer in TV has been really good.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough wait, but you know what? We will all be here. We can all just sort of talk in the comments about our theories, where we think it's all going.
Yeah.
Being excited for more Paul Rudd, what's not the like there. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any more of that. Follow us on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. Thank you to Gut Milk for supporting this video.
And Tie-Dye Guy.
That's right. And we will see
Bring
you
him
here
back
next time.